My friend's 4-year-old kept lying about monsters in her room. When I discovered what the monsters really were, I called Child Protective Services. My friend Jessica always bragged about how well-behaved her daughter Lily was. She never acts up, never throws tantrums. I don't know why other parents struggle so much with discipline. I found it odd. Every 4-year-old I knew had meltdowns, pushed boundaries, tested limits, but Lily was eerily quiet around her mom, always sitting perfectly still with her hands folded. Last month, Jessica asked me to babyssit, and while she went to a work event, I was excited to spend time with Lily, who I'd only seen in Jessica's presence. The moment Jessica left, Lily transformed. She was chatty, playful, asking endless questions about everything. She seemed like a completely normal, curious preschooler, but when bedtime came, she became terrified. "I can't sleep in my room," she whispered, clinging to my arm. "The monsters come at night." I assumed she meant typical childhood fears and shadows, creaky sounds, maybe something from a movie. "What do these monsters look like, sweetie?" "They're really tall and they yell really loud. They have scary faces and they throw things. Sometimes they hurt each other." My heart started racing. This didn't sound like imaginary monsters. "When do they come, Lily?" "When Papassies and Daddy have their loud talks, the monsters come into my room and they're so angry I hide under my blanket, but I can still hear them." I felt sick. Lily wasn't describing monsters' pair and she was describing her parents fighting. "Do the monsters ever come into your room during the day?" She nodded solemnly. "Sometimes Daddy Monster comes in when he's really angry after the loud talks. He tells me to stop being a baby about the monsters, but they're so scary I manage to keep my voice calm." "What does Daddy Monster do when he comes in?" "He says if I tell anyone about the monsters, they'll take me away from Patches, and that would make Patches very sad. So I have to be brave and not talk about them." The pieces fell into place. Lily's perfect behavior wasn't good parenting. Peanut was fear. She'd been trained to stay silent about the domestic violence happening in her home. When Jessica returned that night, I kept my voice neutral. Lily mentioned having some trouble with monsters in her room. Jessica rolled her eyes. She has such an overactive imagination. "We've told her there are no monsters, but she keeps making up these elaborate stories. Maybe she'd sleep better with a nightlight." "We don't believe in coddling. She needs to learn that fears are just in her head. If she mentions monsters again, just ignore her." I went home and couldn't sleep. This little girl was witnessing domestic violence, being terrorized by her father when she tried to talk about it, and then being dismissed as a liar when she attempted to communicate her trauma in the only way a 4-year-old knew how. The next morning, I called the child abuse hotline. I explained that a child in my care had described what sounded like domestic violence using the metaphor of monsters, and that she'd been threatened into silence. The social worker took detailed notes and said they'd investigate. 2 weeks later, Jessica confronted me in tears and said our PS came to our house. They talked to Lily alone and somehow got it in her head that me and her father fight. Now they're requiring us to take parenting classes and anger management. She was furious that I'd betrayed our friendship over a child's imagination. She was describing domestic violence. "Jessica, she was trying to tell you she was scared and you called her a liar." "We argue sometimes like every couple. That doesn't make us monsters." "Lily didn't think you were monsters. She thought the monsters were coming for her. She was trying to tell you she felt unsafe, and instead of protecting her, you punished her for speaking up." Jessica stormed off, but 3 months later she texted me. "The counseling is actually helping. I didn't realize how much our fighting was affecting Lily. Thank you for caring about her when I couldn't see what was happening." Millie now sleeps peacefully in her room. When she talks about bad dreams, her parents listen and comfort her instead of dismissing her fears. Sometimes what sounds like a child's imagination is actually their cry for help, and sometimes being a good friend means protecting their child even when it costs you the friendship. The monsters are gone from Lily's room, but more importantly, she knows her voice matters and that speaking up about being scared is not only a loud parenter, it's brave.